everyone. It is 5 p.m. and we are in the H.J. McAllister Administration Building, and this is a budget workshop meeting of the Board of Trustees of ACIC. So we do have a quorum in attendance tonight. We have 5 trustees. And we do not have, so we'll call this meeting to order. And we do not have audience or patrons on the agenda, but we do allow those before budget workshops, but only, or any workshop, but only on agenda items. And if you have any other topics that you want to discuss outside of the agenda item, then our next regular board meeting will be May 6th. Jake Harmon. So you got 3 minutes. Now I just give you a soft reminder. Okay. Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Jake Harmon. I'm the Fine Arts Department head for junior high, and I'm bringing to you multiple things today. One is a letter from Magna Morellis, the high school theater director. It says, "It is crucial for student growth, for fine arts and competitiveness that we support having a facility for the junior high. I'm glad that the administration supports keeping the pool, which ensures a team of 12 competitors. Key Ingram supports a band of 175, choir of 120, plays of 250, and theater production classes daily, and serves as venue for community events. Using the high school theater as an alternative will severely undercut the number of events the junior high could produce, since the basic high school theater space is used daily, and you have to bus everybody over after school because some people have rights. Terrible situation, Magna Morellis. I also have a sheet I want to pass around of just how we use the building daily. Daily we use the theater classroom in the black box, which serves 150 students. First principal is a construction class, which is our CTE class, is 90 students. Also the girls' weight room and the junior high trainer's office. Weekly we use it for rehearsals for theater performances, which is 30 students served, and all semester we're doing crisis and assemblies every Friday. Monthly we do testing, STAR, additional 8th grade algebra EOC, TELPAS, PSI, and any make testing as well. Yearly we have 2 band concerts, 2 choir concerts, 3 theater performances, 3 performances for a show, and science fair, word circles, and the Junior Honor Society word circle. We do have special events. Right now, the Aristocats are going to use our auditorium for the spring Foley show in next May. This May, which is actually coming up soon. We also get to use for evacuations, school-wide assemblies like anti-drug, anti-vape, and special speakers, 3 community dance recitals, and Lions Club rest of us will have to Bible reason every day. And people are always over there. And I do have one more idea. I was thinking of some ways maybe a community can help fund this thing. Can businesses donate towards renovations? We can have the logos displayed, and we can talk to them programs, announce pre-show announcements. At the stadium, we have billboards everywhere, and that billboard is sponsored by a lot of businesses. Anyone have before in your football? Another idea is we have individuals, organizations, and businesses that sponsor chairs. A lot of times, at professional sports or professional auditoriums, they have names on chairs. Each chair is sponsored by this team. So this is my idea that happened. And I'm going to have my sheet just to have some snow beef for it every day. I want to say, buy it to us. Thank you.
Give those sheets to the secretary. We're going to move item 4 up on the agenda. Looks like you're ready. Sure. We'll move you up.
Okay.
We'll take item 4, financial item presentation.
My pleasure to be with you tonight. Lewis Willis, financial advisor with U.S. Capital Advisors. Again, my pleasure to be with you tonight. What I was asked to prepare is some debt service kind of estimates on various projects that y'all might be considering using maintenance tax notes. Y'all have issued some maintenance tax notes in the past. They are available for any renovation of existing facilities or equipment. So I think the things that y'all are considering these for the elementary wing, the Tenny Homes elementary wing renovations, the the auditorium renovation, the Cherry elementary controls upgrade, which would be the HVAC upgrades, and then also some demolition of some stadium other controls in the admin building and the junior high gym upgrade. Those are the ideas that y'all may have been considering. Maintenance tax notes are not required to take a vote because you are renovating facilities or buying equipment for those facilities. Typically, school districts use these for anything from HVAC, roof repair, purchase buses, or to renovate facilities. The only restriction from the AG's office is that you cannot add any square footage with this kind of debt. Also, this debt is paid out of your general operating fund. So your general fund pays this debt, not your INS tax rate. So that's the only other thing to consider is that debt service does come from your general operating. And the information I just handed out, I'll kind of go across the page here. I'm going to get my readers since I can't see these numbers anymore. The first three columns are what you have outstanding in either maintenance tax notes or contractual obligations, all limited tax debt, meaning all debt that's paid under your general operating. So that's what you have outstanding, those first three columns. 2016, there was some maintenance tax debt service, some contractual obligation debt service, and then in 2020, we issued maintenance tax notes for you guys, and that's the debt service. And then as you follow across the page, the estimate for Tenny Homes was $1.3 million. We've amortized each of these 15 years, just to give you an idea of what the debt service would be on a 15-year amortization. The $1.3 million would be, as you can see, roughly about between $115,000 and $120,000 a year for 15 years. You see the total debt service on that $1.3 million would be $1,775,000. These are best guess estimates based on kind of the market today. That $1.3 million is a project fund. We would gross up enough to just cover all the cost of issuance of those bonds or those notes. Bond counsel, financial advisor, rating agency, bank fees, document prep fees, etc. And right now for the interest rate on this, we're assuming a 3.62. That's probably a little bit conservative, but just to give you an idea of where the market is now. The second project was the Key Ingram auditorium renovations, roughly a project fund of $1,560,000. You can see the debt service there is roughly about $140,000 a year for 15 years. We grossed up a little bit there, and we sized all of these independently. So if you just decide all we're going to do is Tenny Homes, or all we're going to do is the auditorium, we could do those independently in the yellow columns. The third column there is Cherry elementary control upgrade, $427,000 project fund, roughly about $40,000 a year for the debt service on that. And then the last is kind of a combination of the other items that y'all might consider: the demolition of the junior high, the admin controls upgrade, and the junior high gym upgrade. Those are all consolidated into one for $488,000. You can see the cost roughly about $44,000-45,000 a year on average. 46,000 maybe average. And then the orange column is if you decide, all right, we're just going to do we'd like to do all the projects and issue maintenance tax notes for all the projects. That combines the project fund of about $3,775,000. You can see the debt service each year is roughly $340,000 or slightly less. The issuance cost on that size, it's not you know, we're not adding up across the board, it's just if you get 3.7, probably about $100,000 to $110,000 of issuance cost for that. And again, the interest rate assumption on that 15-year debt is 3.62.
When you say conservatively, that's, you think you're guessing high on that interest rate. It might actually be better if we move quick. I mean, they're raising fast.
Yeah, it is amazing how much rates have risen since the first year. Just to give you an idea, the 10-year treasury, January 1 was about 135. We're at about 290 today. So it's unbelievable. So yes, we would need to act fast. The other thing is, it's likely, we assumed an A+ rating on these. If y'all decided to do the bigger amounts, we could probably get the notes insured like we did on the 2020 notes, and could raise that to a AA credit, which would probably maybe bring the interest rate down another 10 or 15 basis points or so. Maybe closer to the 350 range, if you will. And then the last column is just if you did all of the debt in the orange column plus the debt you have outstanding, that shows you what your obligation would be with the current outstanding loan to tax notes. Those first three columns that you already have, you're paying on, plus the orange column, which is a combination of all four of these projects. So roughly debt service about $1.1 million. And then it declines, as you see, after 28. So after about 6 years, it declines about 663,000, and then 670,000, and then down to about 335,000, 340,000.
Is there a limit as to how much tax maintenance against the district can take out? Are we close to that limit? Are we leaving ourselves the ability to fund an emergency in the future? Should we have one?
Good question. If you'll flip to the next page, what this shows, there is a test that we have to approve, been approved by the Attorney General's office when we issue these notes. The limit right now, based on kind of your current values and so forth, is you could pass the test, the AG test, with up to $3.2 million of maintenance tax or limit tax. And we're at about 1.1.
If we did everything.
If you did everything that we're talking about. So you still have a couple $1 million of annual debt service. Now, what typically happens is you can qualify for more than you really want to do because you got to take it out of your general fund to pay it. So generally, that test is very conservative in that you can probably issue as much as you ever want to have and qualify under the test. That is a real quick overview. These are done quite often. Y'all have a couple series outstanding. They're done by schools just for this purpose. When you have projects that you need to do, you need to spread them over a couple of years, but they're not big enough, if you will, to take to the voters and say, hey, we need to vote bonds for $3 million of these kind of maintenance kind of needs.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Brooks? You hang out with us just for a little
Sure,
bit.
absolutely.
So we can once we get through the facilities.
I'm here, thank you.
Got any comments about item 2, facilities discussion presentation, take possible action. That's that. Let's see our thoughts on very well. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Pretty much kind of the same PowerPoint I had from the past workshop with me. They're just kind of course, the priority that we need to do. I know this is acted upon last meeting to go ahead and proceed with the renovations of the 300 wing. I still don't have our forward number. I did a walkthrough with the contractor on Thursday. He's supposed to have to be by December Friday. I think it's gonna fall somewhere in that range. David Brock, the Director of Technology, we are gonna do a little more upgrading on the technology side in there, which will be about 50,000. So I think it would fit in that range pretty well with the IT calls and some other things. So I apologize, I don't have a hard full number, but I know I will for sure by the May 2nd. Junior high grades, still the same number. I did give one tour yesterday, the trustees walked through the facility. See that it is now, it's there.
Couple questions on that junior high. When I walked through yesterday, there's the faux wall that has been put up between the cafeteria lines and the current black box. Walking through there, there's mold on pieces of furniture that are in there.
Yes,
Walking through the main auditorium, you can look up and see whether it's dust, mold, I don't know. Has there been any type of mold, anything done in that building?
there is not been an assessment study before.
I don't know if that's something we should consider doing. But there are pieces of furniture back behind that faux wall that have mold growing on them. So to me, that was concerning to see that.
And that was with the air conditioning running last summer. It is prominent on that side of the facility. I don't have any pictures of that in the presentation. Yes, sir.
So I don't know if that's something that, to me, that was, I thought, talking about a $1.5 million project. And is there a big mold issue there that is beyond what we can imagine? I have no idea. I know the building's age.
It's 74 years, yes. Now I can definitely, if the board desires, I can have mold assessment test performed next week. It's roughly about $1,400 for mold assessment study.
Do you feel like these renovations would solve the problem with mold? I mean,
I think having the proper new chiller and all the controls there would be, it's not doing anything that is controlled right now.
we're talking about nearly a complete excellent of the whole building. And we're still working out on the chairs. That's good, or is it worth $1,400 to see if there's something beyond what? Yeah.
I definitely think it's worth.
Money on 73 million. I really appreciate you working to make time for this. I know that you think that on this will solve all the issues. I don't think on top of all that we're going to do is going to solve that mold issue there. Now, it's always going to be an issue because we see that we don't feel 2 months. It can solve that issue. So spending extra money to have this. Not if we're gonna get it anyway. Right? Is that a decision that we've already made?
The 1.5 puts new chairs on it, new doors on it, new roof, and paints it, and air conditioning. But it's not gonna be, since like when you see the house get flooded, they pretty much cut everything and put it back in. It's not. I think it'd be worth spending $1,400 on a $1.5 million project to make sure that the problem is maybe there's too much humidity because the roof's letting it all in, and if we fix the roof, then it's manageable, with the air conditioning working and maintaining humidity at the proper levels, then it's manageable. Or we spend $1,400 and they say this place is all trash, and you spend 1.5, you're wasting taxpayers' money. So I think it's worth $1,400 to determine.
So, let's go back to, your assessment that was done on the part. You said, it's the black box. And you said it's structural damage.
There's a lot of, I guess that's where the walls meet. From I was running the black box, there's a lot of water coming down that wall, which stains. Can't see in the walls, I have not. The question was asked, has there been a structural stain? The answer is no. After visiting with Playcom Architects, being the building is 74 years old, they didn't advise a structural inspection. We can have one done for sure. Anything after 60 years for Playcom, there's also in the facility studies. Their recommendations surveyed after 60 years.
It's not all. It's, structural damage. It's also some sanctification. The structural damage for the box. And eventually, structural damage later is going to become.
There's some unknowns.
Yeah, to be some unknown, so even renovating all of this. Things that structural damage is going to be. Right.
Without opening the roof up, we don't know.
So it's the same as the mall.
Without having a mold setting, I can't
It's
answer.
the same.
And the mold that's growing over in the old cafeteria is due to the AC not performing like it's supposed to. It's not. So, I don't know when it grew, but it is prominent in storage areas where all the problems are stored for the theater.
What would it take to do a, I guess, a proper structural study to make sure that if we're already done this money in it, that it is structurally safe?
Looking to, I'm sure we can get a PE out here.
That would be lost. I think that would be one. But I'm just kind of remembering, in the structural damage, we have to think about the safety for our kids in it, and our faculty, and the students. We have to think about that first, and along with the law. We need to, I think we need that study. So I think that's what it's going to be.
I agree with you. From the safety standpoint, and if we're gonna spread that out over 15 years, structurally, you wanna make sure that the building is gonna stay up for 15 years. So twofold there, if you could just see what it would take to determine the structural integrity.
If I might,
Yes, sir.
the mold that's existing in the building right now, it needs to be taken care of. Whether you all want to use this building or not, because we have kids there. So my first recommendation to the board, to the team would be, let's get someone out to treat the mold, actually see it. Like we've actually done over in the buildings. Well, let's get an estimate for that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's mold or not. It's on some wrapped furniture that's on the old cafeteria. It's not accessible to students, but it's in the building.
So my concern would be if it's on the walls, because if in fact it's on furniture, then obviously that can be discarded, right? That's nothing permanent to the physical structure. My concern is about the building itself, and for your team or if you need to hire someone to get the furniture out, we can do that immediately. So there's no exposure for our kids, and I think that's going to be a priority for administration as well. I see clarification when you all say structure
some structural damage. done to the back.
Like stress cracks.
That's what
Where-
yeah.
I don't remember having anything that I wrote per se, that
It's something, and I tagged, you know.
The only part of the meeting I remember the structural coming up was if we were gonna tear the auditorium down and leave the black box up. Structurally, there was some questions about was that possible? But with this, we're just leaving everything up. We're not touching the integrity of the.
the only structure stuff I saw was whenever, and I went here, but when the roof was walking. The bid, there was a sentence in the bid saying it does not cover any type of structural repairs.
Yeah.
So that might have been that we saw,
Okay.
in the bid.
That's common in every roof.
Yeah.
You know, a house roof, there only be 3 sheets of plywood, but you gotta pay for the rest of it.
And the reality is, this is a 73-year building. Whether it's structural, whether it's some of the other cosmetic things that you have, that's going to be continuous with the building. So we can kind of project that we're going to be paying for stuff to build a brand new auditorium, probably more frequently than all of the buildings. That's just a fact. But what I would say to the board is, and I gave this to you all, and there's no right answer for this. There's just a better, it's not even the best answer for this, there's a better answer and a better solution. Looking at the impact that this may have on the fine arts program and the spacing for some of the programs that we use during the day. My recommendation, and as we put things in priority, let's focus on the study, the most study. Definitely require, same company can do. Or if there's an immediate for the building, this gets on now. This next one, just start treating some of those spots, and it may be the same people who get. Maybe I don't answer around what's happening, but if you want to get behind the walls, it's probably going to cost. And I do agree that a lot of moisture that inside of the building is you contribute that to the roof. So the AC system, how long.
Dr. Scott, do you agree that in the order of priority, that this one is number 2?
I believe this one is not, it's just, no, King Homes is number one, it's definitely number 2.
You agree and feel good spending $1 million on this building makes, again, I agree with what you're saying. There's no great answer.
Yeah, I mean, considering all of the factors, first and foremost, the academic pieces, the lack of options we actually have to provide additional spacing for those programs. Yes, this is, I say, as long as we don't get anything that says that every space behind the wall is going to be, and I don't think that you'll get that because you have other signs of it, then this is going to be an option for the school district in the meantime.
Mr. Wilkes, can we issue tax maintenance notes in phases? So say we need another month or two to determine this junior high. Can we, if we come to an agreement tonight on 3 of the 4, go and to get those going, and then later, or would does that affect our rating? Does that affect our interest rate? Does that affect things that?
Well, you could do that, but it is another issue.
Okay.
Is it more
So,
advantageous to bundle it together in one?
Absolutely, because you're gonna pay one AG fee, you're gonna pay one fee for your bond counsel. If you spread it out, what I would suggest we could do is, and you may want to do this anyway, we could pass a reimbursement resolution at a upcoming meeting that would allow you to start these projects with fund balance, general fund balance. And then if we get this funded by end of June, you want to start this May 15th or May 18th or whenever school's out, you can start your projects and then refund your general fund at the end of June, if that's when we close the transaction. And in that respect, that would, whatever timing that allows you a little more time to do some due diligence on the roof and the structure of the building and all, if that helps. Now, the other thing is if you decided tonight, hey, we're gonna go forward with project 1 and 3 and 4, whatever. We would need 2 or 3 weeks to just get things together to get ready to sell. And by that time, you may have been able to decide, yes, we want to do this or not. And what we might do is start the project with a maximum amount. Go get the rating for the maximum amount, and then as you decide, okay, now we're not gonna do this, we just pull it down and we issue 2.7 instead of 3.7, whatever we want to do.
So we could, if we went with the maximum amount, we could shift power, we got a PowerPoint with millions of dollars of things to spend money on. We could shift priorities.
Absolutely.
Use those funds for other projects.
As long as they meet the eligibility of maintenance tax notes. It's not new construction, it's renovation, it's equipment, it's systems, roof systems, HVAC systems, absolutely, all day long. All you're gonna certify to is we're borrowing $3 million and we're gonna use it for eligible projects for maintenance tax notes. One thing I didn't mean to clarify, I meant to, the only thing that I would need just a little clarification on from bond counsel is the demolition. Yeah. I'm not sure we can use notes for demolition. We might be able to, but we would need bond counsel. Everything else looks like not a problem. Now, what you could do is you could also fund other things for that $185,000 that you got planned for demolition. Say a couple buses that you got in the budget. We could borrow money for a couple of buses and then use that budgeted money to do the renovation. So we kind of switch some of those items as well to come up with the same amount.
Oh, Rick's not here, but is anybody else familiar with how the school first rating? Because I know part of that is the fund balance. And we're already really close on that number. Is it a snapshot date, or is that like at any time during the year, our fund balance still below so many months?
It's typically fiscal year.
Fiscal year end. Okay, so long if it was spent reimbursed via tax maintenance notes, we ended the fiscal year at our numbers, we're good.
I think typically the only time they're testing it is fiscal year. We can ask Rick when he returns, for sure about that.
Everybody remember too, we had $785, I think, budgeted for heating and room. So that's I won't call it a surplus.
Sure.
Less of a negative in our budget. So we have that to sort of fund a couple of years.
Pays, yeah, two and a quarter years.
And I personally think, I'm in support of what, I'll tell you, I'm in support of borrowing because I feel like if we can get the automated controls, get some of this HVAC stuff taken care of, we're naturally gonna save probably more than $100,000, just not air conditioning on the outside of the building. Stuff like that. So it's really net, we're not gonna be spending $340,000 a year, we're gonna be spending something less than that overall. And then if we get down, I think we're spending another $100,000 on Roberts just for air conditioning in the building. So if we can kind of get all these prioritized, yes, it's a big number to add to the balance sheet here, but we're not going to be spending more. Probably see.
What was that?
Those quarter 2 cents.
I need to talk about the upgrade. Okay. Peter High Girls Gym. I know you got Mr. Wilkes had that. Several places.
Is that in the third and the fourth column, or is that
putting a new floor in? I'm still waiting on numbers. I've been at this job for 2 months, sorry for my report. We saw the floor open last week to look at the substructure. They said it looks okay, but they're working on numbers to put a multi-use floor, like a rubber floor, and also doing some turf lanes in there as well. Once we make sure the substructure is okay, they're supposed to get back to soon. I'll definitely get with the coaches and junior high staff, is what kind of, what they need in the facility. I believe it's a good facility, definitely to use. It has no leaks. Probably some minor upgrades to AC.
Oh.
Be a nice place.
Yeah, I went into this facility yesterday and was shocked. The floor needs to be replaced. There are locker rooms with lockers, their shower, like all the things. Yes, the lockers may not be the exact dimensions that we need, but I think with getting a little creative, this space could be very helpful with what is going on with the athletic department at the junior high and finding some sort of space for the boys athletic department. I know it doesn't have washer and dryers, it doesn't have all of that. But as far as trying to get creative in what we have and the money that we have available, because it doesn't grow on the tree behind the administration building, it's a great space that I think could be very, very useful for our athletics department at the junior high.
Yeah, it's been $200,000 to save up a massive building.
And it looks like, I don't know when they redid it, but this building is a bunch of money into it, and it's just sitting there.
What's the fourth column, Mr. Wilks, the 488,000
That was the
demolition of?
it was demolition of junior high, it was administrative control upgrades, admin control upgrades,
103.
and 103, and the junior high girls gym upgrade 200.
Okay. The floor, okay. So that's the floor, the demo, and the admin controls. The third one is the cherry controls.
This,
Demos are on the fourth column. It's just one demo, it's just.
Is this number the demo with keeping the home?
No,
home field
we're
house?
we're doing a competitive seal bid right now, so they'll be due May 9th, so I'll have a new demolition range. Since these ranges I have was demoing the whole facility, not keeping, y'all do a little less than this, should be. Keeping the main, keeping the shelf.
yeah, that's the one issue I was not sure about, is can that notes provide for that? However, as I mentioned, we could substitute something else that would qualify, finance it, and then take the cash for the.
My recommendation to the board is that we just pay for that. Set aside for six something for the roof and the auditorium. I don't think just pay for this instead of part. So
The demolition.
the demolition, yes, is what I
The whole fourth column.
say the whole work out instead of part and putting it into this in the most big car. I don't think just pay for it. This is the good column one.
Right, but demolition of, if you did Lenny Roberts is $3.
It's not linear Pierce, it's just junior high stadium.
Only junior high, so that,
We haven't determined what we're doing with linear yet.
I thought it was all the demolition.
Yeah, it's the three things he said. He said demo of junior high stadium, the admin controls to get the admin systems there, and then the floor at the junior high. Yeah, that is.
I know we had a conversation last meeting, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, about the home field house. After walking in that gym, I'm not completely sold on, and I would love to have a discussion on it. If that means y'all need to go tour it, I don't know. Of tearing it all down and moving boys athletics to that gym and fitting it out to where it needs to be. Yes, it's not everything that is needed on our want list and our expectation of what it should be, but I think we can do a good job of redoing that gym instead of keeping an old building that's getting older, and we're gonna have the same issues. It's kind of kicking the can down the road again. for that one piece of this field, house, field, whatever, stadium.
And I agree with you, and from my perspective, honestly, logistically, where that building sits for junior high kids, I think it's in the worst location ever. It's right on the edge of the main road. Parking lot, drop off, all the things are happening right there. To me, it doesn't make sense.
I'm just saying, you're gonna have some significant pushback from. And I get it, you know, with the gym or what's athletic or, you know, I get it for like football and stuff, because I walked it as well. Even though I trust her observation, I was a little skeptical that we couldn't get the boys in there when I walked. Even if you take all those out, there's nowhere for them to put their football fans, so not just athletics, or they want gym, for like football fans and buildings and all that kind of stuff, they rip everything out, you're still gonna have limited space unless you start knocking the walls down. And I don't think you want to go there.
What's the square footage difference in the building?
On the entire gym.
Yeah, like the field house versus gym, I mean, if we move, like, how much space are we losing? You know what I mean, like as far as.
The gym floor is 13,000.
Yeah, gym's gonna be
I just know the gym
well,
floor.
then the space is there, then you can just have it for football, this whole thing.
Right.
And I just want to try on, once we get that done, and I was gonna say, let's double back with him about a volleyball tournament that's coming up in the fall, so we may not even put in a turf now, that he much requested, if we get the floor back down for competition.
Oh, for this facility?
That's
out-
what he was
out
for?
there.
Or that floor that he's talking about.
I would want, I mean,
Composite.
yeah, composite, as long as it's straight or high school sports.
So it would not be a weight room type.
I was under the impression we didn't need this for competition. gym.
Yeah.
I was thinking we'd use one of the other two gyms for volleyball competition. I have not just.
I have a different opinion, but I'm leaning towards leaving that field house up. If our athletic director wants it and our principal wants it, and it costs us less to leave it up, then I don't see why we would just leave it up. We can demolish it later for a little bit of money, if we needed to.
Well, but if we're gonna do that, what's the purpose and reasoning for spending $100,000 to $200,000 on a gym? What would this be used for? The junior high has 2 gyms. Do we need more space for the athletic? I mean, I think if we're leaving that field house up, then what's the reasoning for this?
This is not even. What are we gonna spend the money to do it for?
It's not being used though, because they can't use, not because they don't want, they don't need. it.
But they
So
already
what-
have 2 gyms in the junior high. Do we really need a 3rd gym?
So Rosie, what could we possibly use this for?
Do we need to just do
Right now, with the 2 gyms that we have 6th grade in the brand new gym and like the competition gym. 7th and 8th grade share the north gym. So yes, we do use 2 gyms because we've never been able to have access to this gym to use. The initial thought was to have 8th grade PE out there. That would free up more room in the north gym. That was the original thought for it. When we first acquired the building, that was not ready for us to use because we didn't have a certificate of occupancy at the time. So we could not even use it that first year. Then next summer, we had issues with the AC and the core blood. So then we couldn't use it. We have never been able to use that 3rd gym. I know they were actually at one point renting it out too for basketball leagues at one point, which that's a community thing, but I know it was being used for that. If we also had that, we can use, like we could do testing in that if we need to and alleviate that from the auditorium. It's just that we have this building that has the capabilities of being used, we've just never been able to do it. I can't put kids on the floor.
In our old building, did we use 2 gyms or 3 gyms
For the new building, so I can't answer. I don't know that.
We have 2 gyms. Well, at one time, we only had 7th and 8th grade.
But the last couple of years when we had 6th, 7th, and 8th, we used 2 gyms.
They also, you had a different, bell schedule. 6th grade was on an elementary schedule, so that, their PE only was 5th and 6th period. So it's kind of a different setup at this point.
I have a real hard time spending $100,000 to $200,000 for another gym. I think, I don't know.
Well, I would spend 100,000 to save a 13,000 square foot gym. If they're gonna put it to use.
I also know that the high school puts it to use too. I can't attest to what the high school uses the gyms for. But I know that they use ours and they use additional space too, like for different tournaments they have for the summer and for the school year and on the weekends and things as well too. But I do know that they could use that, if they had the ability to use it. But I can't speak to all the different uses that they'd be able to utilize it.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like we have this fantastic building sitting there.
It's probably gonna cost you more to tear it down than put it to work. So that's the administration's recommendations. I do agree, you have a fully functioning building. That I'm sure that the department and the junior high school could find some usefulness with and the community as well.
And I have no doubt about that I think they would be used, but is it absolutely necessary when we have all these other things? And now we're gonna take out a note for even more. That's what I'm saying. Is it absolutely necessary? Like, I feel like we need to be at an absolute necessary point. And is this where that lands? Because we also would like to give staff raises. We would also, and there's, all of this money is coming from the same, in my head, and correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, this is a tax note, but we still have payment to make on it.
That question for me.
I don't know, anybody, am I incorrect in that?
I'll take the flip side of it.
Well, am I incorrect in that, or, I mean, is it all coming from the same pot or no?
Yeah.
We have to be able to,
But fiscally, also letting a building like this sit, deteriorate, not doing anything with it. I mean, I don't know how you do that either. Or you say to tear it down.
I'm just
If we
asking,
can spend 200,000 to demolish it, or we can spend 200,000 to put it to use. Or we can do nothing and let it building sit, and that's what's getting us into these problems, and then the air conditioner goes out, and then he comes to us and says, hey, built an air conditioner, now we're gonna mold. And so I think we treat it as a building that we can use and will use and fix it so that we can actually go in and start doing things with it.
Well, she was saying, she was saying, it correctly, let's use that building and tear down that old building. You know, if we're going to use something, let's use that building, let's take money and use this gym and just tear down the old building. It may not be as large, you know, and it may not be able to fit everything there, but I think we can use it for some of those things. The locker rooms and this kind of stuff and all of that other that we're saying, instead of it just sitting there versus an old rundown field house. You know, we're gonna tear down everything out there and leave this one little building out there that's been sitting for years and years and years. I mean, we tear everything out there, let's tear it all down and bring that stuff into this building. You're renovating it anyway.
Is it not
Let's
an
make use of
Is
it.
it not an option to build out walls and make it into field homes?
All
The
the
permanent house.
This
No,
is say
this-
still
this-
wall, isn't it?
I don't know if
Is
you
that
do.
not an option?
I would do it. I would recommend it. And not get repurposing, gym, but you're actually realistically going to repurpose a building that's twice the size of the field house and limit its usage. So you have a bunch of space that you can't do anything else with because put this, let's just say 10-foot structure into a 20-foot structure, so now you still have, you just wasting space. And let me preface this, but once again, there are no right answers in this whole process, but just the best answers that we can come up with.
And realistically, if we repurpose this building for boys athletics and all that kind of stuff, I mean, what's that cost gonna come to as far as, because we're gonna have, you have to put in, you know, the washer and dryers, you'll have to put in new lockers big enough for the equipment, you'll have to, there's costs involved in that, so I don't know what that cost is, but.
I kind of envision when I make these decisions that we're pushing all this down the road for a future board. We can get 15 more years out of all of these buildings. That this major bond that was passed, 7 years ago, is going to start falling off. And once that happens, then there's going to be another big bond issue in the future that's going to get the district where it needs to be, you know, whatever that looks like. My kids will know. But to take a good building and spend $100,000 on it, call it usable, and say, start putting youth volleyball in there or whatever you want to do, and spread your PD out, and I'm all for it. And I'm all for leaving the other building up the way it stands because our athletic director, our principal wants it. And I'm in favor of passing every single one of these away on this paper. The way it's been presented.
No, they have been budgeting this taken off before the call. Scott said. That's 750 to this thing.
Yeah, and that's not a bad idea. You know, it's which one's better, right? To Matt's point, having $750,000 in hand by not doing a project and then looking in the orange column at funding the first 2 years payments out of 15. If we just went ahead and financed it, or if you just spend it and don't finance it, then you're financing $48,000 a year less, and that's good. So I'm fine with either way, but I think we should do all projects. The way administration recommends.
I think we do the first three, like Dr. Scott said, and leave the fourth to pay, if that is what makes sense and that's what you recommend. Does that, Mr. Wilkinson, does that make sense? Does that, the way that he presented that, to do these first three and then use that money that we have already allotted to, or do we just?
Give you a real political answer. They both make sense. They both make sense. I see both. I think as the board president said, paying the cash and having less debt is always good, but it's also nice to have, cash is king, and it's nice to have cash, as you suggested, that you got that 700 something already budgeted that is there to make a couple of years payments. I don't think there's a wrong answer saying what Dr. Scott said. It's just which do you prefer of those options. Either one, we can take the amount down, that's no problem, but whatever you want, or finance it all, that is just however y'all want to see making the debt service what's easiest, and what do you think is best for you?
By taking the roughly 500,000 out, how does that affect the payment? And how much do you, just a rough number?
It's $37 for $700,000. It's 30.
But I'm sorry, if you take,
So if we take the 488 out and pay cash.
so we're gonna take, your annual debt service gonna drop by that column by roughly 45,000 a year. And so it's gonna be for this project close to 300 a year.
Are there prepayment penalties on these tax notes? We finish them all when we want.
Well, typically, in Texas, tradition is 10 years, to have a 10-year call. On notes, a lot of times we'll put a shorter call just because we know it may come to where you decide, hey, we do want to pay this off. The other notes you have, are callable in 27. So that's 5 years. So those were issued in 20 and had a 7-year call. I think the reason we did a 7-year call is we thought we wouldn't get penalized too much by having a 7 versus a 10. So I think we could do something very similar with these, have a 7-year call. And so the way you look at that is in 5 years, you could call some of the 3 million that was issued in 20, 5 years from now, and then a couple years after that, you could call some of the other ones, some of the other ones, if we had a 7-year call.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we do all 4 columns projects by issuing tax maintenance notes. And that's with the assumption that we're allowed to do the demolition.
Assuming we can, we'll reallocate those.
Those funds will be reallocated to another eligible project if they or not issue. I'll second. Okay. So I made a motion to do all 4 projects and issue tax maintenance notes for them. Motion was seconded by trustee Tenon. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Building fix.
I'll make sure to have y'all some answers on auditorium by
Yeah,
the second.
and that's, yeah, just for the record, that's continuing on that.
Let me say this, while we're thank you, Scott, for the work that you're doing. I know he's coming back and saying that he doesn't have, the answers from some of the companies that we're working with. I know how diligently he's working, and his team is working to get that. We're just at the mercy of, the economy, the backlog, all the work, evaluation, company has had. So, thank you for staying on top of the work that you guys have done. I also thank the board for moving ahead and getting these projects done. And I know some of the stuff is working on here, but it's the right thing to do. And I will say for the previous administration, even for the previous board, you worked with the information that you had in front of you at the time. I don't think that anybody made, intentionally made any decisions that they thought would not benefit the district. So I just want to go on record saying that not only for the previous board, but for the previous administration as well. But here we are now. I think that you'll have made a wonderful decision tonight. And hopefully we can move forward with these projects.
Just one clarity, just to ask, because I know Scott mentioned, particularly with the state, we need to start as soon as school goes out. We're good, everybody's.
Yep.
Now that we've made this decision, we can start tearing everything down, start January 1st. Sorry.
Once we get the bids,
Hopefully.
May 9th, right?
Following the time schedule for the still bids. We're gonna open them on, it's May the 9th, and then y'all will have, I guess we'll have to have another workshop or a meeting to approve the contractor that was selected. Or for y'all to approve the contract.
Because we'll have a workshop after the election anyways, to approve the election results, so we can take care of that. Close the private business. Perfect. Mid-May. Assuming everything goes smooth on your end, so I'd like to echo Scott's sentiments and say thank you. You've done a tremendous amount of work, and Mr. Wilkes, thank you for making yourself available to us. It was very helpful to have you here
Absolutely.
to be able to talk through that.
And my only question is just how quickly do you want us to?
Start making phone calls on the way out. No, I give it Dr. Scott and at his discretion, so start getting these things done.
I'll just board meeting dates. Sure. Potentially that we can target. Kind of do that when we're doing other things.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much.
We'll already have a second working next Scott.
They'll come on and shoot. Well, they'll come on the first one after, they'll come on every one after May 2nd, after May 7th.
We're not gonna have a special one
We have
to
a
bring them in.
meeting where we approve the.
Yep.
Meeting after that. when we come on.
The next meeting they're in.
We could, at one of those meetings, choose, we could do a reimbursement resolution. If you want to, just to make that transition a little quicker and smoother, and then pick a pricing date.
Yep.
And we will sell the notices effectively, so we'll get bids, we'll have probably 6 or 8 bids, and the lowest interest rate.
I think investors are excited about the rising of interest rates, and we'll be looking to smash these things up before they go back down.
Sir.
Okay. I think that's the whole time. Okay, well, we got plenty of time. Item 3, Boys and Girls Club location options, take possible action, Dr. Marshall Scott.
All right, so the administration has, we've been talking about, location for Boys and Girls Club, having several discussions about that. And the administration has 3 recommendations for the board to consider. First one is, the share space model that we've actually discussed and we've gone out to the districts to look at it to where Boys and Girls Club and one of our facilities. And we went back out. I think it was a consensus with the board that we were only considering one campus. So whether that campus is going to be Roberts or whether it will be tenant homes, the first option would be to have a shared space model there and only allow that grade level, this first and second, or this third, fourth, and fifth to utilize that building. The second model would be a shared space model at one campus, either homes or Roberts, and you allow all elementary school students to actually go there. And you would have to provide the transportation for them as well. The third option that came to the table was to allow Boys and Girls Club to use the newest wing at the old Lady Roberts campus, and it would, Boys and Girls Club would continue its standalone model as it existed. And those are the 3 options we'll consider. Let's not miss additional options.
Okay, so the Lady Roberts one's interesting. Do we need to demolish the old wing in order to use the new wing? So that we don't have this teeny homes, old new wing situation going on with the old wing isn't functioning right, and there's mold and the new wing's functioning right, or?
The separate structures.
Oh, that's right. Separate structures. My kids went there.
I know that.
Still be demolished.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would be,
But it wouldn't affect it.
so that would be, so would it impact Boys and Girls Club using the site and as it currently exists? The answer is no. However, if you're looking for something additional as far as playground space for them to utilize, I know there's a recommendation to keep the gym up. That was given as well. So the old one, the newest part of the and then the gym would remain, and then the rest would be up for consideration for demolition. That's what I recall.
That seemed like a viable option too.
So it depends on what exactly what we're expecting from the program. And I've had extensive conversations with several trustees about the shared space model, the standalone model. I've experienced both. I've seen success in both. The long-term benefits in places where I've actually been in urban areas and in larger school districts is what they need to preface it by saying that it helps. I'll also say that it's supplemental. This is not the core work that the school district does. This is the school district partnering with an after-school program that it believes will be beneficial, directly or indirectly with what our purpose is, and that's to educate our students and keep them safe, make them lifelong learners and good citizens. Once again, probably something like a comparison is there's no right answer. There's just the best answer with the constraints that we currently find ourselves in as a board.
Lenny Roberts option is being discussed because that facility is better than your facility, that
If
they're
you're
more
gonna-
accommodating and got something else to offer.
Yeah, if you're gonna go with the standalone model, there's no way long term that, I believe the Boys and Girls Club can exist where it currently is. So it would be a more viable option for Boys and Girls Club.
So Boys and Girls Club could be a standalone facility, Lenny Roberts in service, all district students that get their logistically through bus service. Or we could do a school model that services just those grades and that campus. Or the third was one school, everybody comes to the school.
So for us as a school district, I would say we could offer Boys and Girls Club, the wing at Roberts and the gym. And what Boys and Girls Club decides to do with their program, whether keep it the same or we designated for elementary kids or all high school kids, that I can't answer that for them. But I think that they would have the space to be able to do some of the things that they're currently doing.
Has this been discussed with Boys and Girls Club, with Sine that came? Has that option been given to them? Where do they stand on that if it has?
It is my understanding, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Boys and Girls Club, but if we're not offering the share space model here with the district, I don't believe that Houston Boys and Girls Clubs go into the standalone site model when they see. But again, that's out of my purview of the superintendent, but I don't believe so. I know they're moving towards this, and this is just my personal knowledge towards the share space model of support programs.
I think the benefit to our community is greater with it being in the schools. I think our numbers, the number of students we'll be able to reach when looking at other clubs and other areas, the numbers between a standalone versus a shared space are different. I think we'd be able to reach more students with the services that are provided, the after school, the things that Boys and Girls Club can offer if they're in a shared space. I know the numbers that were given were 250 per site, correct? And Boys and Girls Club Bay City said they could offer somewhere between 250 and 300, if not a little bit more, so they would cover all the costs for one space, one shared space location, is my understanding. Numbers wise, so it would not be any money out of Bay City besides the obvious things that would have to be paid for, but Bay City is currently providing transportation, correct, Dr. Scott?
Yes.
So,
You just had something that was offset.
No more transportation.
Yeah, there's pros and cons. I mean, I think the downfall would be that you would have to limit how many students you service. If you do one campus and only that campus, then the other grades don't get bussed in.
And I feel like there may be, which I just kind of thought of, there's probably sibling situations that are going on where I had a first grader and a fourth grader, and I want them both to go to the club, and if it's at teeny homes, then my first grader can't come now because.
Yeah.
Does that scenario exist?
oh, I'm sure it does. I mean,
If you do a shared space model, you almost have to bus kids from, Lenny Roberts to any homes or. I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of one campus and only those grades. I would be in favor of one campus and all the grades, or I'd be in favor of Lenny Robertson and all the grades, right? They're just gonna get bused in Lenny Roberts instead of Pierce. Right. We found a purpose for a building that we need to do something with. If we don't have any maintenance costs on it, essentially they would operate it like they do now. So I'd be in favor of either of those. I'd lean towards using the Lenny Roberts space, but I don't with the information.
Dr. Scott, you got any feedback from campus administrators on their thoughts on having a common campus?
I would tell you that, I mean, if you've never seen the program work, changes absolutely always scary. There's some hesitancy from the campus leadership. I can, and we've even gone out to see, you know, Rosie went out and did one other elementary went out as well. But it's something that's brand new. And even if you go and see it, if you've never experienced it, then you're still gonna have to unknown. That's another thing that I want to put up here too. My recommendation, these are options, but if you're asking me, and you do go with the shared space model, then it has to go to Roberts. Well, yeah, I would say it has to go to Lenny Roberts at this time because we have some academic needs and we're gonna have some significant changes. So to couple that and go with the shared space model, it's just, I think it needs a little what our expectations are. That's just from my business. Thank you. That's superintendent.
What's the administration's recommendation of the three options?
Based on coaching, I never feel the board. Always look forward to this group.
Okay, but he also says he gives you this first, and if we don't like it, then he's ready for the second.
I gave it to her.
Hey, you read the first.
We need to replay the film, see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I gave.
Which one did you say first?
Mr. President, do you mind if I have just a quick comment?
Yep.
I'm gonna look at it from the maintenance and custodial standpoint.
Yes, sir.
I am concerned having a shared space just for the extra hours that the kids are gonna be on campus. I already have a very short custodial staff, and I'm not sure how late the Boys and Girls Club does operate out of a campus. If that's 6:37, I'm not sure. So I'm looking at it as wear and tear and then a custodial cleaning. Unless Boys and Girls Club has their own custodial staff they're gonna bring in, I know that's gonna be extra wear and tear on my department. So sorry to be selfish. I'm just giving you all my,
No, please.
that aspect of it.
Yep.
And Mr. Tag, I was at track field. Working here. And what the custodians was talking about being, understaffed and having to have to work, to try to catch up. So, yes, I would agree with that. It's excellent.
Let's see what implement this kind of help with that issue, and that was not an issue, but I don't know, maybe we can think outside the box as far as.
In the full school system, I don't know. Some areas, schools that have a shared space model, there's additional resources. But yeah, facilities are going to be there. And even though I know as a part of the Boys and Girls Club, they want to teach and teach kids and students how enough academic you're still going to have to work for things, put in a class, all work back together, like they were. But if that means that self-corrects over time, you will make an assumption, but that you would want to put some additional costs. And I'm not sure if that's included. 300 from our facilities. Not, I mean, I don't think it would be significant, but it's still a bit costly.
Priscilla, would you support the Lenny Roberts option? If we got rid of the whole broken down buildings and we repurposed that facility as a Boys and Girls Club standalone facility?
We need more information or just someone want to make a motion? Motion's been made by trustee Robinson, authorize Dr. Scott to offer the Lenny Roberts building for the use of the Boys and Girls Clubs. Is there a second for motion? and Jim.
Thank you.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Motion been made by trustee Robinson, to authorize Dr. Scott to offer Lynn Roberts building and gym to Boys and Girls Club for use for the program. Motion's been seconded by trustee Scarlett. Any further discussion?
I mean, should we entertain the idea of selling that building before we? Just like with the girls.
If you sell the building, you're gonna commit to a shared space model.
I understand, but I'm just talking about the financial standpoint. That before we just commit to, I don't know,
I also
I don't
think,
know if the building will sell, I'm just.
yeah, I also think that the pros and cons, yes, there are cons, yes, there are pros to being in shared space. But the pros long-term far outweigh the cons for me and the ability and what we can do for students with this organization coming in and doing things after school and providing, and it will grow tremendously in a shared space model versus a standalone. We're currently in a standalone. And it's 70, 75, 88 from what they said. I think that's what they told us. So,
I agree, I do agree with you, Joe, but I think the economics of where we are in this part of Texas, we already have a staffing problem in this district. And so I think we've got continual maintenance, staffing problems. There's no right answer.
Right.
And
No, I
I feel like that's where.
I agree.
And this doesn't forever commit us to this model. We can come back in 5 years and say, okay, we've got the money now, we've got the programs now, we've got the teaching staff now, let's do shared space.
Still have to do. The janitors stuff still have to be.
So that was going to be, when it was my turn to say, you need to look at the actual agreement that we have currently, with the one that was supposed to allow them to use computers. And I don't know what the actual agreement says, but I don't know if it's the same as we have with Head Start over at the old Hilltop building. And you all may want to look at that agreement as well.
I mean, they have an operating budget. I think if we do this, then their operating budget covers the maintenance. Fleet, their staff.
So that would have to be written up into the building. Yes.
But this is all student doing.
Yep, the motion is just to authorize them to offer it and negotiate this, and we'll come back.
So if they say, no, we're not taking that, then we talk about shared space after that, right?
That's not true. Is that
It's
that
not
how it
fair,
works?
but, yeah.
That's why I said off,
What was that?
that's why I used the word off.
Offer.
So we're offering
I
this.
said,
as
give
a-
it,
formally
give
offering
their
this as
choice.
an option.
You-
Do we take care of facilities at Pierce now?
No,
No,
They do it themselves.
they do. They do, we just do.
you will take care of it. So,
So just clarification, this is offering Lydia Roberts, if they say no, then they'll kick it back to here? Or what is that, is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I would assume, yeah, and we could then say we don't want to do the shared space model and they would be forced to continue operating the way they are. So it's twofold, right?
Right.
Not saying we don't want to, or we do want to, but we could in theory. So offering an upgraded building.
Yeah, I'm like, they need $20,000 right now.
Right, so they're not gonna be able to.
On its own.
Right.
We don't demolish it.
They're not gonna be able to keep on going. Yeah, they're gonna have to make.
Sure. They need to do something.
Hey, for
Yeah, I was, I honestly asked the board, if they say no, are you gonna come back to consider the same motion again?
I was going to say, I thought, we made in the policy correctly that, report in the habit, the budget for someone to read was the key, as from always read the same thing over and over and over again. This item has been here on this agenda for 3 or 4 times. So whatever decision that we make tonight needs to be a decision that we stay with. And keep it there. It's been boys and girls, boys and girls, boys and girls. So I think we need to make a decision and keep it there. I just think, I thought that was the whole point. So that we wouldn't keep revisiting the same item and the same thing being on the agenda over and over and over. This one has been occurred for months.
So you're saying that we vote to offer the Roberts, they deny,
And we're done,
squash?
this watch, we're done with the boys and girls.
I think that's, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I think to squash it and never have even had an opportunity, Dr. Scott, did you say you have had a conversation with them about linear arts or no? I have not had a conversation with anybody about linear arts.
I sent an email to the director, and she's not for the Roberts option. I forwarded to the board.
You may have, I'm not sure. I think Boys and Girls Club does more for our community. And if we sit and say, if they say no, and then they're done, I think it is a detriment to our.
But we also need to remember that it wasn't the last meeting, but one meeting that we had. We mentioned something about where we said that you're going to pay the $250,000 in this things didn't say, but it's not right. Or we haven't agreed upon that yet. And I caught that. I don't know if anyone else caught it, but I caught it.
Right.
It wasn't in writing
Right.
yet. So I think right then was saying that they're not willing to pay that $250,000.
That's because it wasn't in writing on an MOU at that point. The money that we budget as Boys and Girls Club, Boys and Girls Club raises between 250 over 300 usually a year. Our budget is usually roughly around 300, give or take a little bit. Don't quote me fully on that. The money is there for one space, and I remember that conversation happening when Zane was here. So they were saying it was 250 a site. The district, if we wanted to do 2 sites, would have to pitch in 250. But according to our financials, I don't think it's smart to do 2 because we don't have the $250,000 to throw in right now. But if they can offer one site and we figure out how do we do custodial, how do we do that type of stuff in an agreement with Boys and Girls Club, then I say we go for it. And if we don't like it, then we turn and we do something different. But I cannot sit up here and I will vote no, to sit up here and say if they don't accept Lenny Roberts, then Boys and Girls Club is gone, because I have seen what Boys and Girls Club can do. And I truly believe in the organization and what it can do for our students and our community. And so I'm one of all of us. So I understand that, but I will vote no if that is how we're going to treat this. To just, if she says no, then we.
Are you on the Boys and Girls Board?
I am.
And you have to abstain from
Yeah.
voting here.
Yes.
I'm fine with that, but that's where I think that it is a huge asset to our community. And I think that this program can go up and service junior high kids. And I know Mrs. Cummings went and saw the junior high aspect of it in Houston, and she spoke about it and the abilities to grow this program into helping all students, I think has amazing potential, but we need to see it work.
Same thing over at Robbins. I think you can do the same thing. You did it over at Pierce. It made a huge difference when you did it over at Pierce. You can make a huge difference over at Robbins. And still serving the same kids, more so, because those kids are housed in that community. So I don't see the big difference.
Because it's an old building to an older building. So what are the problems that we're gonna face in that? I don't know. And I think Houston brings a huge asset to the Boys and Girls Club with the training that they're able to offer, with the funding stuff that they're able to offer to help Boys and Girls Club boost up in Matagorda County and figure out how to do it at a professional level, because they have the staff that Matagorda and Bay City does not.
Because they have Boys and Girls Club, they have right now people in place that are doing magnificent things here for the boys.
Oh, and I'm not saying they're not.
Can come and bring that same stuff that they have over in there too. So I know that you're on the board and you are passionate about it. So I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing you, and we are offering it. And if she accepts it, then fine. If not, I am just saying, this has been on this agenda. And our whole thing about our new policy was to keep from having things appear on the agenda over and over and over again. We are making choices now. She has choices.
And I,
Three choices. So she can take them or leave. Take it or leave. And we have to make the decision. We are at a point now, we need to make a decision.
oh, I agree. We're at a point where it has,
And
something
she-
has to
she
be
can
determined.
make a decision. She can make that decision.
And it's not her, it's the whole board.
Her board,
It's the whole board.
and her board. Her board can make that decision. But we as a board can make
And point of clarification, the new policy is pretty much a standard policy.
and that's fine.
And it's to keep items from coming up that won't be set second, right? So if you're the only one that feels a certain way, you keep asking for an agenda item over and over. This is important enough that I would sponsor putting this on the agenda in a month or two or a year again. However, to your point, we need to make a decision, and if the majority feels that way, then we stick with that decision.
And I will say, I have not asked for this to be put on the agenda month after month.
I
You don't have to ask, it's just business that has
Right.
been
It
occurring,
has to come up.
just like these facilities,
Right.
they've been recurring.
I'm sorry, I have to, my daughter has
I
to.
know.
You're abstaining
Yeah,
anyways.
so, sorry, thank you all so much for meeting at 5. I do greatly appreciate it.
May I make a comment about academics?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, so I just want to draw us back also to what our purpose is with Bay City IC, which is academics of students. And whatever decision is made by the board, I just ask that you consider, right now at Roberts and at Holmes, we have after-school tutoring for hundreds of students. We literally are, almost every teacher is after-school tutoring 2 to 3 days a week. So I just want to make sure we also don't play into the tutoring or interfere with tutoring in any way. Not saying that the shared space model will, but I just want you to keep in consideration that know that space will play into that decision as far as we do use the school after hours considerably at both spaces as well. I'm sure depending on enrollment in Boys and Girls Club, we just need to think about how logistically we handle both routes.
Has that been discussed at all with the Boys and Girls Club, as far as how that space will be shared with tutoring and extra students?
Share that this is a great design.
I mean, do y'all see it as far, is that going to be a problem as far as space? And are we going to run out of space if we?
I don't know, I don't know, I didn't sit on the task force or participate in those meetings. I think it just depends on what the enrollment is in Boys and Girls Club. I think it can be done. I just think it becomes also more complicated as you have multi-age groups together on a first, let's say, on a first and second grade campus, if you're tutoring first and second graders. Some of them may go to tutoring and then attend Boys and Girls Club, but you also have, you've got to consider you've got third, fourth, and fifth graders coming in possibly for Boys and Girls Club. So I just want you to think logistically about, what that might look like. It may not be a problem if we just have a few third through fifth graders, but if you have 150, that could present a different challenge down the road.
And also too with the academics, do we have any control over curriculum that's Boys and Girls Club?
No.
Even if it's our campus?
Yes,
Yes, no.
yes, no, we don't. No. I mean, they have a model.
Yeah.
that actually used.
This may.
From our standpoint, we just did the Easter coloring page for the Sentinel newspaper at Boys and Girls Club. We handed out 80 coloring pages. Most of the kids are 5 to 8 years old, which means they're third through fifth grade. So it would make more sense to be a campus with those kids there. But also, like Jill brought up before she left, I mean, y'all have LRE needs to be used. The old campus is just sitting there running away like some of these other buildings. So what if you made an MOU for like, hey, you've got 2 years here at LRE and we'll revisit the shared space model later on.
Yeah, I
Because
think
the
they
deal
need
is,
more than 2 years to operate, but I understand your
so
point.
you can get access more to like their notes and all the things they have.
And I'm, not trying to wrap discussion up, but, I like listening to what the administration needs and what the shortfalls are and the spaces. And so I think what's best for the district and what's best for the students is that we offer this facility to the Boys and Girls Club. And then to Lisa Moya's point, we've got kids on all of our campuses after school with tutoring, and then we've got kids being going to the Boys and Girls Club. And so we have more programs and we're not cramming them all into one school. In 5 years, in 10 years, whatever that MOU is, if we determine we have the money for shared space models at every single one of our campuses, then I agree with Jill. That could be a great, amazing program. But right now, I think what's best for us is to offer this campus and say, this is our offer, and to Trustee Robinson's like stick with it. I mean, that's
It's our offer. We demolish the buildings as a district and get it ready for Boys and Girls Club with the real estate that's useful.
yeah, I think we do that.
I'm asking the question, I'm not.
In my opinion, yes.
So, I mean, if I may,
Go, please.
as a district, you're gonna wanna take that building, the actual standing building, the main building down anyway, so you don't have to pay for the maintenance fees, the AC and all the electricity and all the other things, plus if you have less of a structure there, right? You're not paying not much of the insurance on it and stuff. So the idea would be to demolish that anyway.
Okay.
That would be the administration recommendation with the board of girls. Long term.
And then you got more room for playground space or just soccer fields, but
And at one point, Scott mentioned that there was extra playground equipment. I don't know if they can utilize that somehow.
Caitlin, the minutes need to reflect that, we only had 5 trustees present for this final vote. Trustee Westmore, that. Any further discussion? Okay, as a refresher, motion is on the table, made by myself, Dr. Stephens.
Yes.
Okay.
So you don't put it back up again. So then I will need guidance on the MOU. Or going into the existing MOU to where I understand this one with the peers that we take care of the maintenance pieces over there. I know we've actually done some repairs that came at the district's cost.
I'm not aware of those. That might have been in the fall.
Yeah, it's probably. But I know that we're still responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of that building versus the other partnership that you actually have, they're responsible for. Do we want to keep the existing MOU and the agreements we currently have? If in fact, Boys and Girls Club accept the Roberts swing.
Are you doing any mowing over there?
At Pierce,
Yeah.
nothing, to my knowledge. Only thing I've heard Mr. Johnson say is we pay the insurance, as far as I'm aware.
I think regardless of what the current one says, we're structured so that they're doing the maintenance. I mean, the upkeep of the grass and everything. Similar to the Hilliard. We still own it, nobody's there, yes, we are, correct.
But we're saying the structure is that the Boys and Girls Club would get to use the facility for, and that they would have to provide the.
Yes, that's what happens at the, with the group with Head Start. Other thing, Scott, we didn't get this one, was what you get over the children or something.
Yes, sir.
I thought we authorized that collection.
Because we weren't sure.
Listen, chiller, no chiller, and all of it.
So I feel like we have to turn it over to them in working order.
I agree.
So if we're gonna, if they agree to this, and we're all good, and we authorize the chiller for fix, and here you go.
Is that one wing in the gym more usable space than what they have here? Right?
They'll have access to the whole property, playground.
And one more thing, that's a really good point. In comparison to the spaces where Boys and Girls exists now versus the Roberts, if they don't want it, are they allowed to stay at the Pierce location and not move? Because then we're still in the same room that we were here before. And we're still responsible for things that we're.
But it would be in there, it would be in their hands, they would be saying that we're gonna walk away.
It was not stay here in the building, fix it.
Well, we already know Pierce is dependable. Right? I mean, it's a hazard.
What does the agreement actually say? You know?
Yes, in a nutshell, the Pierce family gave us the property. We built school on it. We retained ownership of the property. And but in the agreement that we also have, it must be utilized for educational purposes, maybe recreational, maybe written in there. And if in fact it's not utilized for that, then the agreement says that it reverts back to the family. It's not met with the family and they don't want it back. So they're not gonna take it back. Maybe they can repurpose it for the city or something, but I can't understand, but I have enough property to do, so you all can keep this for fun. And I get it. Giving you enough to consider tonight, trustee.
Over the hump. On a lot of things. We can get out of the construction business and go back to academic performance. All right, motion's been made by myself. Authorize the superintendent to offer Lenny Roberts with the program, the new wing and the gym. Motion was seconded by trustee. No, trustee Robinson made the motion. I'll second. We have further discussion. All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed say no. Nobody abstained. Motion passes 5-0.
got a lot of business done today. We moved district forward and we didn't spend a whole lot of money annually on the budget. So hopefully Dr. Scott, that gives you some clarity on the district budget when we get to those presentations.
Not even close. No, we're actually, motion, and you're actually to her for the facilities piece. It's really going to give us the clarity. No question. Very good.
My mom had heart attack last week, so, and bad and he was conceived on next week, in the morning. So prayers for the mom, thank you, prayers, and also Scott, for your day that, the devil is busy, and we all have to say that. Thank you.
Two more families. Yeah. Also lost a grandchild. Discussing issues. Yep. On a lighter and broader note, we did get visited by the TA commissioner. It was an honor for him to come visit our district. This is for very good reasons, Dr. Scott. Want to talk about that a little bit? Maybe we can highlight that at our next board meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were selected out of 30+ districts in Region 3 to one of two. Just to represent the good work that we've actually been doing. Typically, when the commissioner goes out to visit within each of the regions of the state of Texas, the region executive director, they want to show off their best and their brightest, and honored to share with Commissioner the great things we're actually doing here in the district, and visited Roberts Elementary to see how we're working with our early literacy program, and also visited the high school to see what we're actually utilizing to grow and develop and coach our teachers and our leaders. That's phenomenal feedback. I want to personally thank Assistant Superintendent Lisa Moyer, who spearheaded the entire visit. She organized it on behalf of Region 3, did all the work for them, her and her team. I'm super proud. She even gave the commissioner some feedback about some adjustments they maybe make some of the resources that they're using with TA. And the funny thing was, he acknowledged it, that he was aware of those things, and he asked us what we were going to make the adjustments. And the feedback that Lisa gave and her team gave, we're going to do what's in the best interest of our kids. And he was on board with that, that we were bold enough to do those things on behalf of our kids. We're very good visit. It's always good for the commissioner to come and see you for the right reasons and the good reasons. So that's all to you all as a board in the organization. First and foremost, hats off to the work that's being done within our schools. I've said this before, because we have some of the best and brightest educators I've worked with in my 25-year career, and they're willing to do whatever it takes on behalf of kids and to provide district form, and also our campus leaders as well. Congratulations to Bryce Turner, who went on to regional and 100, and John Andrews, who's moving on to regionals and 100. That's up there. It's not probably 4x4.
Yeah. Well, 4.
So super excited about our journey back to the state.
And we have a sophomore on our lady soccer team who was MVP for the whole region, I believe. And so she'll be back 2 more years. That program's just going to keep getting better.
That team is just there, young.
Yep.
They're extremely good. So,
Yep.
And their department's looking up as well.
We've got a lot of good things happening in this district, and we've got some folks hired that'll help us focus the attention to the media on all the positive things that are going on. But the commissioners visit, I can't wait to read about that next week. Be sure to call the front office and get as much information.
I think the only thing we did for the past 2 weeks replacements that we just got out of hospital.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's been me going back through this.
All right, I'm fine adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I did that.
Motion been made by everybody to adjourn. I'll get my list, the credit here, seconded by trustee Murray. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed 5-0.